American politics, a tired two-act play starring Democrats and Republicans. It's like being forced to choose between two bland bowls of oatmeal, night after night. The branding is different, but the core ingredients, corporate donors, empty slogans, gridlock, never change. The result? A political landscape so stale most Americans are just exhausted spectators. For years, people have dreamed of a real alternative, something beyond the endless red versus blue rerun. That fantasy was just that, until a certain rocket-launching billionaire decided to crash the party. Enter Elon Musk, tech mogul, Twitter troll, and now, would-be political disruptor. Musk's new project, the America Party, a third-party bid to reboot the system. He calls the two-party system outdated software, and himself the genius ready to rewrite the code. His pitch, a party for the ignored middle, powered by logic, data, and a dash of meme magic. Unlike past third-party dreamers, Musk brings a fortune, a global platform, and a knack for grabbing attention. He's betting he can do what no one else has. Break the two-party gridlock and launch a new era in American politics. The appeal of a third option is real. Most Americans crave more than red or blue. Polls show a majority want a new party, tired of holding their noses at the ballot box. Musk's America Party promises a mix fiscally conservative, socially moderate, tech-forward, anti-bureaucracy. It's a coalition of the politically exhausted, united by frustration, not rigid ideology. The dream? A post-partisan future where problems are solved, not weaponized. In a bleak political climate, even the hope of change is a powerful force. For once, Democrats and Republicans agree. Musk's America Party is a terrible idea. Both parties instantly closed ranks, dismissing it as a billionaire's vanity project and a spoiler. They point to the graveyard of failed third parties, ignoring the barriers they built to keep newcomers out. Their unity reveals the truth. When threatened, the two parties act as one to protect their turf. Musk's challenge exposes their shared interest in maintaining the status quo. The louder their protests, the clearer the threat to their comfortable duopoly. The America Party's launch wasn't a traditional rally, it was a meme-fueled spectacle in Wisconsin. Musk took the stage in a leather jacket opening with a Doge meme instead of a policy speech. The event was chaotic, weird, and perfectly engineered for the internet age. Musk promised AI-powered platforms and first principles thinking but offered more vibe than agenda. For the extremely online, it was a signal this isn't your grandfather's political party. The old rules are out, the new era of meme politics has officially launched. When it came time to discuss the actual policies of the America Party, the details remained elusive. The platform was less a concrete set of proposals, and more a constellation of tech-centric buzzwords. It was a vision of government run with the ruthless efficiency of a Silicon Valley startup. The core tenets were simple, abstract, and universally appealing. Innovation, efficiency, and long-term thinking. The specifics were vague, but the promise was grand, a government that works smoothly. Musk's vision was a blend of libertarian ideals and tech-bro utopianism. The America Party wasn't bound by outdated labels, but was a party of problem solvers. Ultimately, the platform was an exercise in branding, selling a feeling of forward momentum. It was a rocket ship fueled by buzzwords and the belief that any problem can be solved. The Democratic establishment reacted to Musk's announcement with patronizing concern. The Democratic National Committee warned Musk's effort was a dangerous distraction that could act as a spoiler. This spoiler argument is the Democrats' go-to defense. It's a message designed to guilt and frighten disillusioned voters back into the fold. Behind the public hand-wringing, there was a palpable sense of annoyance. They mocked his vague platform and simplistic approach to complex social problems. The Democratic response was a mix of public dismissal and private panic. They scoffed at the idea that Musk could build a real political movement. But behind the scenes, you could almost hear the frantic typing as campaign managers drafted fundraising emails. The Republican establishment responded with outright sneering mockery. The idea of Elon Musk leading a major political movement was seen as absurd. Former President Donald Trump led the charge, calling Musk a train wreck. The Republican critique focused on Musk's perceived lack of ideological purity. They painted him as an out-of-touch coastal elite. There was, however, a subtle undercurrent of anxiety beneath the bravado. His mix of fiscal conservatism and libertarian social views could appeal to the Republican base. This led to a two-pronged response, Project Confidence, but sharpened their attacks. The Republican strategy was to laugh him out of the room. In modern America, true bipartisanship is rare, but in the wake of Elon Musk's America Party announcement, the nation bore witness to a political miracle. For the first time in centuries, Republicans and Democrats found common ground. They agreed that Elon Musk's political ambitions were absolutely hilarious. The mockery was swift and gloriously bipartisan. It was the first functional coalition government America had seen in years, and its sole purpose was to dunk on the new guy. The America Party had become a national punchline. On Capitol Hill, bitter partisan rivals could be seen sharing a chuckle at Musk's expense. For a brief moment, the toxic cloud of polarization lifted, replaced by shared condescension. It was a testament to the power of a common object of ridicule. Now that we've seen the two parties unite in their mockery of a new competitor, it's worth asking, what are they protecting? The answer is their cozy arrangement. The Republican and Democratic parties like to present themselves as fierce, ideological warriors. The reality is they are less like two warring armies and more like two wings of the same very old, very sleepy bird. There are differences, especially on social issues, where the parties have mastered the art of stoking cultural outrage to distract from their economic similarities. Look closer at who funds their campaigns. You'll find that the same corporate interests have a direct line to the leadership of both parties. The result is a political system where the illusion of choice masks a profound lack of it. The two parties aren't opposites, they are partners in the business of staying in power. If you want to understand the creative bankruptcy of the old guard, look no further than their campaign slogans. These are phrases workshopped to death by a committee of consultants, focus grouped into a state of perfect, inoffensive blandness. They are, honestly, the political equivalent of elevator music. Republican slogans often sound like they were pulled from a 1950s textbook on patriotism. Words like freedom, strength, prosperity, and morning in America are recycled endlessly. They evoke a vague, nostalgic feeling for a past that probably never existed, promising a return to greatness without ever defining what made it great in the first place. It's a political hallmark card, sentimental, generic, and utterly devoid of substance. Democrats, on the other hand, favor slogans that sound like they were written by a well-meaning but slightly out-of-touch guidance counselor. They use words like forward, hope, change, and for the people. These phrases promise a brighter, more inclusive future, but the details are always fuzzy. It's a politics of aspiration, a promise that if we all just believe hard enough, things will magically get better. The problem is, after decades of hearing about the change that's just around the corner, voters are starting to suspect that the corner leads to another corner. It's a motivational poster that's been hanging on the wall so long it's started to peel. The true genius of these slogans is in their emptiness. They are designed to be vessels into which voters can pour their own hopes and fears. What does Make America Great Again actually mean? Whatever you want it to mean. What does building a better America entail? You fill in the blanks. This vagueness is a feature, not a bug. It allows candidates to avoid making specific testable promises. It's the art of saying everything and nothing at the same time. These are not calls to action, they are Rorschach tests. They are carefully crafted bits of political vaporware, promising a wonderful new product that never actually ships. This reliance on stale, recycled language reveals a deeper problem, a profound lack of vision. A party with new ideas would have new ways of talking about them. But the old guard is stuck in a loop, repeating the same phrases that worked for Reagan or Kennedy, hoping they still have some magic left in them. It's why Musk's chaotic, meme-driven communication, for all its absurdity, feels so different. He may be speaking nonsense, but at least it's new nonsense. The two parties, meanwhile, are stuck speaking a dead political language, offering slogans from a bygone century to a country desperate for a 21st century conversation. Perhaps the most advanced piece of technology employed by either party is the fundraising email machine. This is a finely tuned engine of psychological manipulation, designed to do one thing only: separate you from your money by making you very, very afraid. Your inbox is the battlefield, and your wallet is the prize. Every day, you are bombarded with emails that have subject lines written with the subtlety of a car alarm. The formula is brutally effective. Identify an enemy, describe the terrible things they're about to do. After scaring you, the email offers a single ray of hope: donate. The entire process is designed to bypass your rational brain and appeal directly to your most primal emotions: fear and anxiety. They have perfected the art of monetizing outrage, turning political discourse into a never-ending telethon. The emails must be sent, the fear must be maintained. Every political party needs a mascot, a symbol to rally behind. In practice, if you were to visit Capitol Hill on any given Tuesday, you would find that these mascots more closely resemble two very old, very tired animals taking a long, state-sanctioned nap. This is the visual metaphor for modern American governance, a legislative branch in a state of semi-permanent hibernation. When they are in session, much of their time is spent not on legislating, but on call time. Hiding in small closets and begging wealthy donors for money. The people's business, it turns out, is often second to the party's business. The system is designed for inaction. They are roommates in a very comfortable, very expensive house, and they have a mutual understanding not to make too much noise or mess up the furniture. The greatest trick the two parties ever pulled was convincing the world that their constant fighting was a sign of their deep ideological differences. It's not. It's a feature of the system they have built together. The gridlock we see in Washington is not an accident. It is not a bug. It is a carefully engineered outcome that serves the interests of both parties. It is their secret handshake, their unspoken agreement. Because a government that is perpetually stuck in neutral is a government that cannot pass laws that might upset the powerful special interests who fund both of their campaigns. Gridlock is the ultimate protection for the status quo. Think about it. If you are a massive corporation, a Wall Street bank, or a defense contractor, what is the biggest threat to your business model? A functional, responsive government that might decide to raise your taxes, increase regulations, or cut your funding. What is the best possible outcome for you? A government that is so busy fighting with itself over symbolic, cultural issues that it never gets around to addressing the substantive economic ones. A government that is locked in a state of permanent partisan warfare is a government that is too distracted to do its job, and that is exactly what the most powerful donors want. This is the uniparty's core function. The Republicans provide the theater of free market capitalism, while the Democrats provide the theater of social justice. But behind the curtain, both parties quietly agree on the really big stuff: massive defense budgets, corporate subsidies, and a financial system that is protected from meaningful reform. They will fight to the death over which bathroom people can use, but they will vote in near unison to pass $1 trillion spending bill filled with giveaways to their corporate backers. The culture war is the distraction. The gridlock is the business plan. It's a brilliant, cynical strategy that keeps the public divided and the powerful protected. So when the old guard roasts Elon Musk for trying to disrupt their system, what they are really defending is this lucrative arrangement. They are defending a system where they get to keep their power, their donors get to keep their profits, and the American people get to watch the show. They are defending a system where nothing ever really changes because change is bad for business. The roast of the old guard is not just about their stale slogans or their sleepy mascots. It's about exposing the fact that their greatest bipartisan achievement is the creation of a political system that is perfectly designed to fail. So, you've got a billionaire, a party name, and online followers. Welcome to the first level of this political video game ballot access. It's a 50-state obstacle course, a legal labyrinth designed by the two major parties to keep others out. Each state has its own unique rules. It's designed to exhaust your will to live, and more importantly, your campaign budget. It's a legal moat built around the two-party system. This is the system that Elon Musk now faces. Can he get a candidate on the ballot? The two parties have spent over a century perfecting this system of exclusion. Most challengers simply give up long before a single vote is cast. At the heart of ballot access lies the most tedious of all political tasks: gathering signatures. This is the paper-cut gauntlet. You must collect tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of signatures from registered voters, meticulously verified. It is a process designed for failure, where a single misplaced initial can invalidate an entire page. Imagine a volunteer outside a grocery store asking strangers to sign a petition. For every signature, they face dozens of rejections. It is a slow, painful grind. The major parties are exempt from this task. They are automatically granted ballot access. A new party must spend millions just to compete. And even then, the established parties will challenge the petitions, looking for any error to keep the new party off the ballot. It's easier to get a Tesla to Mars than a third party on the ballot in Alabama. It is the first great filter of American politics. The road to ballot access is littered with the political corpses of those who tried before. This is the graveyard of good intentions, where the ghosts of failed third parties whisper cautionary tales. Every few decades, a new leader emerges, promising to break the mold. And every time, the system finds a way to absorb, marginalize, or crush them. The most famous ghost is that of Ross Perot, who ran in 1992. Remember the Bull Moose Party? It serves as the ultimate cautionary tale about the spoiler effect. These ghosts of third parties past serve as a powerful warning. The question is whether unprecedented resources can help avoid becoming just another ghost in the graveyard. The America Party faces a great barrier: the presidential debates. This is the ultimate velvet rope in American politics, controlled by the Commission on Presidential Debates. To qualify, a candidate needs 15% support in national polls. But it's a chicken and egg problem. Third parties need debate exposure to reach 15%. Post Perot, the 15% rule ensures an independent like him wouldn't get on stage again. The debate stage is their private party. This is the challenge for any America Party presidential candidate. Without cracking that 15%, they're relegated to the political kiddie table. It costs an astronomical amount of money to run a national campaign. You need money for ads, staff, travel, lawyers, and pollsters. Because of campaign finance laws, there are limits to how much of his own money Musk can pour directly into a candidate's campaign. The two major parties have an overwhelming advantage, having spent decades building their fundraising machines. A new party has to build this entire infrastructure from scratch. Donors don't like to back a losing horse, creating a vicious cycle for third parties. While Musk can self-fund the initial startup costs, building a sustainable political party is a different challenge. It costs a fortune just to get to the starting line of American politics, and it often costs a fortune just to lose. After bipartisan mockery, something unexpected happened. Polls showed a combined 40% of Americans were likely to support a Musk-led party. It was popular with male Republicans and independent men. Musk's chaotic energy reflected frustration with the system. It was a glimmer of hope, a sign that the public's appetite for a third option was real. Gallup polls showed a majority believe a third major party is needed. Musk saw the gap and decided to build a product to meet it. 40% is a number that's hard to laugh at. It could be tapping into a powerful undercurrent of public sentiment. As soon as the poll numbers dropped, the great content machine of American political commentary roared to life. The Pundit industrial complex, that vast ecosystem of cable news talking heads, newspaper columnists, and podcast hosts, sprang into action. They had a new, shiny object to analyze, dissect, and bloviate about for endless hours of programming. The initial mockery gave way to a more serious, though equally predictable, phase of chin-stroking analysis. Suddenly, every pundit was an expert on third-party viability, the history of the Whig Party, and the psychological profile of the median independent voter in suburban Ohio. The takes were delivered with the unshakable confidence that only comes from being paid to have an opinion on everything. On one channel, a conservative pundit would gravely warn that Musk was a Trojan horse for liberal ideas, a secret environmentalist who would use his party to implement a radical green agenda. On another channel, a liberal commentator would argue with equal certainty that Musk was a right-wing wolf in tech bros clothing, a union-busting oligarch who would dismantle the social safety net. They couldn't agree on what he was, but they all agreed he was a threat, and that you should be very, very worried. And you should definitely stay tuned after the commercial break to find out just how worried you should be. The endless chatter served to frame the narrative. The conversation was rarely about the actual ideas Musk was proposing, because there weren't many. Instead, it was about the horse race. Who would he hurt more, the Republicans or the Democrats? Could he really win, or was he just a spoiler? Pundits dusted off their old Ross Perot analysis from 1992, comparing polling charts and debating historical precedents with the fervor of sports analysts breaking down game tape. The public's actual desire for a third option was treated as a secondary concern, a curious data point in the much more exciting game of political strategy and palace intrigue. This is the function of the pundit industrial complex, to transform complex issues into a simple, dramatic, two-sided conflict. Musk's party was just the latest plot twist in the ongoing soap opera of American politics. The pundits weren't there to inform, they were there to entertain and to reinforce the existing framework. Their analysis, for all its sound and fury, ultimately signified nothing new. It was the same old story, just with a new character. And by focusing relentlessly on the question of who would win and who would lose, they subtly reinforced the idea that the only thing that matters is the game itself, not the people it's supposed to serve. With the polls showing real interest and the pundits fanning the flames, the two parties deployed their most powerful weapon, the spoiler argument. This is the nuclear option in the duopoly's arsenal, a rhetorical device designed to terrify voters away from any third option. The argument is elegant in its simplicity and brutal in its effectiveness. It goes like this. We know you don't love us, we know you're frustrated, but a vote for that third-party candidate you kinda like is a wasted vote. Worse, it's not just wasted, it's a vote that will actively help the person you despise the most. It's a political guilt trip of the highest order. Democrats immediately began to sound the alarm. An army of strategists and surrogates went on air to warn that the America Party would inevitably peel off more anti-Trump moderates and young people than it would traditional Republicans. Therefore, a vote for Musk was, in reality, a vote to put the dangerous, chaos-loving Republicans back in power. They painted a grim picture of a future where, because a few idealists threw their vote away on a tech billionaire, the country would be plunged into darkness. Every vote for the America Party, they argued, was a betrayal of the greater cause of defeating the ultimate evil. Simultaneously, Republicans launched their own version of the same attack. They warned their base that Musk's libertarian-leaning, tech-centric message would appeal to fiscally conservative but socially liberal voters who might otherwise hold their nose and vote Republican. Musk, they claimed, would split the center-right vote, allowing the radical, socialist Democrats to seize control and ruin the country forever. A vote for Musk, according to this logic, was a vote for big government, high taxes, and a future where your gas stove is confiscated by the state. It was the exact same argument, just with the villains swapped out. This is the genius of the spoiler argument. It turns a voter's hope for something better into a fear of the worst-case scenario. It forces them to think not about who they want to vote for, but who they need to vote against. It's a powerful tool for maintaining the status quo because it makes the act of voting for a third party seem not like a principled stand, but like a reckless, selfish gamble with the country's future. The message from both sides was identical. Stay in your lane, pick one of the two approved options, and don't you dare try to color outside the lines. So what was the average person to make of all this? For many, the America Party became the political equivalent of putting pineapple on pizza. It was honestly a deeply controversial new topping introduced into a world that was used to just pepperoni and mushrooms. A small, passionate group of people loved it immediately. They saw it as a brilliant, refreshing, and long overdue addition. Finally, they thought, a sweet and tangy option to cut through the greasy monotony of the same old flavors. These were the early adopters, the 14% who told pollsters they were very likely to give it a try. They were tired of the old menu and excited by the prospect of anything new. Then there was the large group of people who were immediately and violently opposed to it. For them, pineapple on pizza was not just a bad idea, it was a culinary crime, an abomination against nature. Fruit does not belong on pizza, they would shout, with the moral certainty of a fire and brimstone preacher. In political terms, these were the loyal partisans, the people deeply invested in the red and blue teams. For them, the America Party wasn't just a bad choice, it was an illegitimate one. It violated the fundamental rules of the game, and its very existence was an insult to their political sensibilities. But the largest group of all was the pineapple curious. These were the people who had never tried it but were intrigued by the debate. They were the 26% who were somewhat likely to support Musk. They would listen to their friends argue about it, weighing the pros and cons. On the one hand, they would reason it sounds kind of weird, but on the other hand, maybe it's good? I'm so tired of pepperoni. Maybe a little pineapple would be a nice change of pace. This group represented the vast, persuadable middle. They weren't ideologues, they were just hungry for a better option. This is where the public reaction settled. The America Party became a potent symbol of political disruption. It forced people to question their assumptions and consider a new possibility, even if it was a strange one. Like pineapple on pizza, it was a conversation starter. It was a controversial, messy, and slightly absurd addition to the political menu, but its presence made the whole meal more interesting. It challenged the boring tyranny of the pepperoni and mushroom duopoly, and forced everyone to ask a simple question. Are you happy with the choices you have, or are you willing to try something new, even if it's a little weird? After the initial excitement, a slow, sobering dawn began to break. The 40% of Americans who were likely to support the America Party started to do the math. The initial reaction of, yeah, screw the two parties, began to give way to the calculation of, but can this guy actually win? And for most, the answer was a reluctant, disappointing, probably not. The fear of inadvertently helping the greater of two evils began to outweigh the hope for a better alternative. The abstract appeal of a third option crashed against the hard reality of the winner-take-all system. His erratic tweets started to look less like refreshing authenticity and more like a potential liability. The public had flirted with the revolution, but most decided to go back to the devil they knew. As the America Party announcement settled, the political discourse devolved into a meme war. This conflict was waged in the trenches of Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit. Elon Musk, a grandmaster of the digital dark arts, led the charge himself. His social media feed became the party's unofficial headquarters, pumping out a constant stream of memes. The political circus had officially entered the age of the shitpost. The goal was to make the America Party seem like the cool, edgy, and inevitable choice. It was a war for the vibes. The media circus wasn't just covering the election hijinks. The hijinks were the election. Fought one ridiculous meme at a time. The traditional media, particularly 24-hour cable news, went absolutely bonkers. Elon Musk was a ratings goldmine, a perfect storm of celebrity, controversy, and unpredictability. Networks that had previously been dedicated to the solemn business of analyzing tax policy and foreign affairs suddenly transformed into a 24/7 Musk-a-Thon. Every tweet he sent was treated as breaking news, worthy of a panel discussion with at least 4 experts who all fundamentally disagreed. The chyrons at the bottom of the screen became a frantic, desperate scroll of Musk-related content. Musk tweets, cryptic rocket emoji. What does it mean for the midterms? Or, sources say Musk ate a taco, a shift to the left? This obsessive coverage created a bizarre feedback loop. The more the media talked about Musk, the more relevant he became. The more relevant he became, the more they had to talk about him. He was a human content machine, and the networks were addicted. They would invite guests on to debate the merits of his latest meme, treating it with the same gravity as a Supreme Court decision. Pundits would spend entire segments psychoanalyzing his online behavior, trying to divine his secret grand strategy from a reply guy insult he'd fired off at 3 a.m. It was a spectacle of profound absurdity, a news cycle fueled by nothing more than the whims of one very online billionaire. The two major parties found themselves in a frustrating bind. They were losing control of the narrative. For decades, they had been the main characters in the story of American politics. Now, they were being relegated to supporting roles in the Elon show. A Republican senator could give a major policy speech, but all the news would talk about was Musk's latest joke about flamethrowers. A Democratic governor could unveil a sweeping new initiative, but the headlines would be dominated by speculation about who Musk was going to endorse in a local school board race. They were being crowded out of their own news cycle, and they were furious about it. This media meltdown highlighted a fundamental shift in political power. Attention had become the most valuable currency, and Musk had more of it than anyone. He didn't need to buy ads when the news networks were giving him billions of dollars worth of free airtime. He didn't need to hold press conferences when his every casual thought was being broadcast to the entire world. The media circus wasn't just covering him, it was empowering him. It was a self-perpetuating hype machine that turned a political long shot into the unavoidable center of the political universe, leaving the old guard screaming for attention on the sidelines. Behind the scenes, the leadership of the Republican and Democratic parties was in a state of quiet, dignified panic. Their public faces remained confident, dismissive, and full of mockery for Musk's political LARPing. But in private, they were watching their carefully controlled world spin into chaos. Their entire business model was predicated on a stable, predictable, two-sided conflict. They wrote the script, they cast the actors, and they directed the show. Now, a wild, unpredictable character had stormed onto the stage, started improvising his lines, and was setting fire to the props. They were losing control, and they had no idea how to get it back. The Democrats' biggest fear was losing their donors. The wealthy, liberal benefactors who funded their campaigns were starting to get nervous. They saw Musk's party not just as a political threat, but as a cultural one. He was siphoning off the attention of young, tech-savvy voters and making the Democratic Party look old and slow. Fundraising consultants began to report that their usual scare tactics weren't working as well. It was harder to convince people that the most existential threat to the Republic was the other party when this new, chaotic force was sucking all the oxygen out of the room. The money, the lifeblood of the party, was suddenly in jeopardy. The Republicans, meanwhile, were terrified of losing their voters. They had built their modern coalition on being the party of the anti-establishment outsider. But now, there was a newer, shinier, and arguably more authentic outsider on the scene. Musk's message of blowing up the system was resonating with the very same voters they had courted for years. They could see their base being fractured. Local party leaders were reporting that lifelong Republicans were showing up to town halls asking about the America Party. The fear was that their monopoly on anti-government sentiment was being broken by a competitor with a bigger platform and better memes. This panic led to a series of clumsy and desperate moves. Both parties started running negative ads not just against each other, but against Musk, which only served to elevate his status. They tried to co-opt his language, with aging politicians suddenly talking about disruption and first principles thinking in a way that sounded deeply unnatural. They were reacting, not leading. For the first time in a long time, the old guard was not dictating the terms of the debate. They were playing defense against a rogue player who refused to follow the rules, and their panic was the clearest sign yet that the game was actually, finally, beginning to change. As the media circus reached a fever pitch, the America Party faced a very practical problem. It needed actual candidates. A party is just an idea until it has names on a ballot. And so began one of the strangest recruitment drives in political history. It was less like a traditional search for experienced public servants and more like a casting call for a reality television show. The party wasn't looking for former mayors or state senators. Nope, they were looking for disruptors, outsiders, and people with large social media followings. They were looking for anyone who didn't look, sound, or act like a traditional politician. The call went out through Musk's social media channels. He announced that the America Party was seeking problem solvers, engineers, entrepreneurs, and anyone who is sick of the status quo. The application process was, naturally, unconventional. Instead of a resume, applicants were asked to submit a 1-minute video explaining how they would debug the system. The party was inundated with submissions from a bizarre and eclectic mix of Americans. There were YouTube celebrities, cryptocurrency evangelists, former tech CEOs, and believe it or not, a surprising number of people who listed professional gamer as their primary occupation. It was a veritable island of misfit political toys. From this strange pool of applicants, a slate of candidates began to emerge. There was the software engineer running for a House seat in California whose entire platform was based on rewriting the tax code in the Python programming language. There was the former NASA scientist running for Senate in Florida who wanted to fund the government by mining asteroids. There was the small business owner in Texas who promised to replace all the bureaucrats in her district with a single, highly efficient AI algorithm. They were inexperienced, they were eccentric, and they were a direct assault on the very idea of what a political candidate should be. The old guard was horrified. They saw this slate of candidates as a joke, a collection of amateurs who had no business being in government. They mocked their lack of experience and their outlandish ideas. But in doing so, they missed the point entirely. The inexperience of the America Party candidates was their greatest strength. Their weirdness was their appeal. They were a living embodiment of the party's core message, that the so-called experts had failed, and it was time to let the misfits and the dreamers have a turn. The candidate recruitment drive was the ultimate hijink, a final, defiant gesture against a political establishment that had long forgotten that it was supposed to be a government of the people, not just the politicians. So where does this leave us? The America Party has held up a giant funhouse mirror to the American political system, and honestly, the reflection is not flattering. The final punchline of this grand political joke is not on Elon Musk. It's on the system he is trying to disrupt. The question is no longer whether Musk's party is a serious endeavor. The rocket of the America Party is sitting on the Launchpad, shaking and rumbling with the volatile energy of public frustration and online hype. We are all just waiting to see if it will actually achieve orbit or simply explode in a spectacular, entertaining fireball of failure. The countdown has started, and for better or for worse, the entire nation is watching to see if this thing actually takes off. As we watch the America Party's rocket sputter, the two old giants of American politics allow themselves a chuckle. They believe they've weathered the storm and deployed defenses against the upstart challenger. They're confident the system they built will protect them. The old guard is betting on the powerful inertia of the status quo. They know the American political system is designed for stability. They are counting on the fear of the wasted vote and the sheer exhaustion of the electorate. They believe that Musk's movement is a house built on social media hype. The history of American politics is on their side. The system has an incredible capacity to co-opt and neutralize its challengers. If an idea becomes popular enough, one of the major parties will simply steal it. They might just wait for the America Party to implode. For the duopoly, the easiest way to win might be to simply do nothing. And so, the establishment prepares to have the last laugh. Perhaps the most fitting conclusion lies not on Earth, but on Mars. Elon Musk, after all, has a contingency plan for everything. The possibility that if he can't fix this world, he'll just pack his bags and start a new one. Perhaps the only thing that Democrats, Republicans, and exhausted independents can all finally agree on is that they sincerely hope Elon Musk moves to Mars before the 2028 election. Democrats and Republicans would line the streets arm in arm, waving little flags as the starship carrying Musk lifts off. They would watch it ascend into the heavens, a single unifying tear rolling down the cheek of the nation. And maybe that's the real lesson here. A future where the biggest political question of the day doesn't involve the colonization of another planet. One can only hope.